Pickaxe.
Hello, and welcome back to the Review of Death,
Wow.
your fortnightly Doctor Who podcast for news, reviews, and all that jazz.
Whoa.
Slightly different intro this week, but that's how we roll on this show.
We do whatever we want, man.
Yeah, we do. I'm Matt Toffolo.
He is.
This is Billy Garrett-John.
I are.
We're going to be chatting about a Peter Davison story.
Oh,
Oh no! I knew it! I knew it before I could. Well, I mean, you messaged me and
just
said
say the episode title.
Frontios.
Oh,
Oh. Oh, okay.
presumptuous.
I was, okay.
But we'll get into it. You know, there's a bit of, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
We'll get into
Okay,
it.
interesting.
We need to talk about Shaft.
Yes.
The 14th Doctor has a great costume.
Yeah.
So the way I saw it, it's brown, it's
Yeah.
long, it's got big collars, it's leather. It's the 9th Doctor that fused with the 10th Doctor.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Leather 10th Doctor.
Yeah. Have you got any other ideas, Russell? We'd love to see him. But it looks really good.
It does look really good. I prefer it to the other costume because I think it just is broken up a bit more because you've got the brown coat, you've got the different type of shirt, you've got darker trousers, he's got a pair of trainers on.
I was going to say,
They
I
don't
wonder
really
if
work,
that
I don't think.
footwear is actually not going to appear on camera.
Do you think that's just you need to sprint up this
Maybe.
track and
but,
these shoes?
But I also sort of, it doesn't look like they're branded trainers.
Yeah,
so it
well,
could be
someone
part of
found the
costume.
trainers on Twitter,
Yeah.
and they're 205 quid. So I imagine for that
So,
money, they're
okay,
probably
almost
going to
certain.
come up
But
on the
also,
camera.
Shooty Gatwa's been on the Netflix payroll for the last however many
Yeah.
years with Sex Ed,
Yeah.
which is actually something I wanted to talk about. So,
What, sex education?
yeah,
Well, this is how it works, Billy. When a man and a woman love each other very much.
that's what I've been doing wrong this whole time. So apparently they actually wrapped later than expected.
Yes.
Which is why Shooty hasn't been seen on set until, as of recording,
Yeah.
sort of the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, because today was, I mean, obviously at the time of you guys hearing this, this is a week in the past.
Yeah.
But
2 weeks.
is it? Well, fuck me.
Shit.
I don't know what is happening, where I am.
I mean, by the time that we have
Have you
released
come
this,
dressed as Shooty Gatwa tonight?
I was wondering when you were going to
I
notice.
just realised. I was like, you've got your check trousers, you've got your orange shirt on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Shave your hair off.
Please do. I mean, I probably will before I go to New Zealand.
Will you? Yeah.
Well, you know, too much money getting a haircut out there.
That's true.
But I was thinking, so obviously they released the photo of him in the sort of full check deal,
Yeah.
but the overrunning of the shoots for Sex Ed seems to have been something that sort of came out of the blue. It was sort of an 11th hour extension
Right.
from what I've seen. So I wonder, you know, usually when stuff like a costume is released or a monster is announced, it's because it's going to appear in public at some point.
Yes.
And they want to get the drop on the papers getting shit photos of it, so they want to put out a nice publicity image.
Yeah.
I wonder, because this is not a massive departure, but significantly different enough to be basically a completely different costume for that Doctor, and this is the first time we've seen him in full costume on location.
Yeah.
Were we supposed to see Shooty on location earlier
Oh.
in the photo that they released?
Oh, I see. And now
And
they've
Things have been mixed
shuffled it
around, a
around.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that makes sense. And maybe they just
That-
thought, well, the press are going to run with it,
Of
so
course.
let's let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And they have. I mean, there were so many articles this afternoon about
Yeah.
Shooty's costume.
I have to say, the first time I saw it was when you sent me photos.
Yeah.
That was my first glimpse of it.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw it was I walked through the front door and Annie shouted down the stairs,
Look!
"Oh, they've got a new costume for Doctor Who." It's like, what?
I mean, he's a clothes horse. He'll
Yeah.
look amazing in anything.
This is it. And this is the thing, like, because I showed Jonathan and he was like, yeah, it's fine. And he said, the trouble is, he said it's not very doctory. He said he just looks too cool and too good. You know, and I was like,
We've never had a Doctor like that before, though.
No.
Like, Tennant is probably the closest we've had, and Capaldi, but that sort of, you know, it's a 500-pound shirt because it's ripped in specific places.
Yeah.
We've had that sort of high fashion thing before. But I think, you know, you can't cast someone who looks like Ncuti Gatwa
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
dresses like Ncuti Gatwa And if you put him in a bedsheet, he'd look great.
Yeah.
And just think, he's going to look great in anything.
Well, this is the thing. Well, that's what I said. I think he's just too good looking to be Doctor Who.
That is that. Well, we've already reached our conclusion of Series 14. Unfortunately, Shooty, you're too good looking to be Doctor Who.
It's a compliment more than anything.
I think for me, it's the first time it's like, wow, the Doctor's fucking ripped, bruh. Like, you can see his pec.
Yeah.
Like in his shirt.
Yeah.
Which is sort of, And
he's been looking.
Yeah.
Really looking.
Yeah. I mean, he's mildly alluring, but also like, I haven't quite fallen in love with him the same way. It's like, oh no, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor Who. Do I fancy Sylvester McCoy by extension now?
Yeah.
But you look at Shooty Gatwa and you're like, you turn a guy's head, Shooty, is what you do. But yeah, he looks great.
It's a cool costume.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I like the 70s vibe.
Yeah.
That it gives.
Yeah.
Like
because it's beige and orange and...
Yeah. You mentioned Shaft and...
Yeah.
There are periods of 1970s cinema that, it
reflect that
back,
sort of look.
harks back to.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean,
it's a very diplomatic way of saying
that. Was a very diplomatic way of saying it.
Yeah.
But I did text you, live and let Doctor Who. Because that was my first thought. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally see that. I mean, he looks great. And it's nice. Actually, it seems like quite a strong departure or strong variation in costume.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in terms of what has been shot already and what that was for, that's the first costume I guess we see him in as the Doctor in the Christmas special.
Yeah.
And then he reverts to the Czech thing in Series 14?
Well, I don't know, because people have said that he was on set at the church with his other costume on as well.
With the one that was in the publicity photo.
Because they've been putting them all in those big coats. Not only to keep them warm, but I guess to hide
the
stuff.
costume, yeah.
But someone saw his boots and his the cuffs of his checkered trousers.
Nutcases,
yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that his first, as far as we know, day on location was shooting in a pub in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And then going to Prism in Cardiff as well.
Yeah.
It's like, fucking welcome to Doctor Who. You're going to be shooting in Cardiff a lot, but actually also shooting in Bristol a lot.
I know, it's good.
You
chose the wrong time to fuck off to the other side of the world. It was like they were waiting. It was like, oh, he's buggering off. We'll film in Bristol.
Let's shoot a shit ton of Bristol. Yeah. But, we know, we're not, going to be ignorant to this situation. We know that in some instances it is cheaper to shoot in Bristol than it is in Cardiff.
Yeah.
So we just look forward to having you here more, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
If you could do it sort of between now and the 14th of March, that'd be brilliant. Shoot everything you can here. That'd be great.
I'll just be, when you're on your, wherever you are, on your travels, I'll just send you a WhatsApp. Be like, oh, look who it is.
3 o'clock in the morning, Stel goes, what's that? He said, Stella, look, it's the suspension bridge and Shooty Gat was there. Yeah. This is important.
Doctor Who's down Turbo Island.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No, they tarmacked over it,
There's no burning sofas there anymore. Google Turbo Island, Rodders.
Yeah.
Be interested to see what your perspective on Turbo Island is.
I heard that they tarmacked over it to stop that sort of, those shenanigans from happening. And then, like, the next day, there was like a sofa on fire there.
Good. And you can't do that kind of thing in Stokes Croft.
No.
Because as soon as we're getting into Bristolian
we really
sort of
are,
politics
yeah.
You can't do that shit in Stokes Croft because it's going to get torn down, set fire to. Yeah. A spliff's going to get smoked on it.
Yeah. And it was like the only bit of green in that area. It's a shame, really. I mean, I know it was like a muddy patch. With
green. It's burnt orange and yellow and black. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know why they thought, oh, people are going to suddenly see that tarmac area and go, I can't burn this.
No.
Chest of drawers.
Desolate wasteland, shit's getting set fire to. It's almost like being on the planet's surface of Frontios.
Oh, what a segue. What a segue.
I need to work in radio.
You do, yeah. We also need to hope that there is no news between now and this episode going out. I have to edit in extra bits.
We'll cut that in here. Right, Frontios.
Frontios.
Exciting stuff. Now, obviously, I am not a hardcore fan of the beige celery-wearing era of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's nobody in this room who can throw things at me from
not
behind
tonight.
camera. Not tonight, so, we're good. So I went into this with low expectations.
Yeah.
But also sort of realising that I hadn't watched Frontios since it came out on DVD.
Right.
And do you know what? It's pretty fucking good.
It's a good story.
It is good fun.
It's a good story.
But again, it's, as we always come back to with our review of Deaths, it seems to be a problem with Doctor Who. If you don't have a great villain at the centre of it.
Yeah.
And it's a fine villain, but if you don't have a villain that ticks all the boxes at the centre of it, it's always going to be sort of a bit shite.
Yeah, I think this is one of those occasions where the story is let down by the production and and the direction.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think so.
I think every aspect of the production of this, from the direction to the lighting to the set dressing, is perfect.
Oh, really? Okay.
Except for the Tractators.
Interesting. I mean, the Tractators are a problem. The Tractators look amazing
when they don't move.
They don't move.
We'll get there. All right, so, written by Christopher H. Bidney and directed by Ron Jones.
Yeah. But this is what I mean about the directing, because Ron Jones is just like a safe pair of hands, isn't he?
Is he as safe a pair of hands as Peter Moffat?
Is that sort of... I mean, I think even Peter Moffat might have...
Oh, sorry, I meant Wandering Hands when I said Peter Moffat.
No.
Broadcast from the 26th of January to the 3rd of February 1984. Doctor Who is in its twice-weekly format by this point.
Wow, yeah.
So 2 episodes a week, and then you have to wait. What is it? Is it Monday, Tuesday, and then the next Monday, Tuesday?
Something like that. It's so weird. God, dear.
No wonder this era of Doctor Who's rubbish. I'm joking. UK number ones.
1984?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So Jonathan was a bab.
Yeah.
Not that that's going to help me.
Matt, if I said
Duran Duran, I don't know.
UK number one last week, you'd have about as much of a clue. So people who, there's on Spotify, there's a Rod of the Pops playlist. So every number one for every episode that we review. And it's constantly updated with every episode that we do that goes out. The number one for that story goes in. You have a choice of either Pipes of Peace by Paul McCartney, which is a good song.
Don't know it.
But for the... I won't... Well, maybe I'll sing it in a bit. For the majority of the story, it was Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Relax.
Don't do it. When you want to come... Well, it was... But it's fucking... Like, it's one of those songs where it's like, come on, no wonder you got banned by the BBC. It's not quite Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, you know.
No. Yeah.
Then that got banned, and it's not even about LSD. On the planet Frontios, in the far future, beyond the influence of even the Time Lords, the Earth is hungry.
What about the films?
The films?
What's the box office?
Nothing came out at the start of that year.
Okay.
And actually, I think this is the 3rd story in this series that we've actually reviewed. So, The Twin Dilemma.
Oh God, yeah, that's this season.
This.
Yeah.
And there's another one that
Warriors
we've done.
of the Deep.
Warriors of the Deep. So we've done 3 season 21 stories.
Yeah.
So
and this is the best one so far. We haven't even done the review yet.
No,
this
it is.
The best one
it is.
So far. Yeah.
What else is in that season? I don't think anything
The
else
Awakening.
Yeah, but that's like...
I don't know what it's about.
That's going to be like a 15-minute review from us.
Yeah, every time I watch it, I'm always like, what is this going on in this?
Well, I'll add it to the list and we'll do it when we're doing Remote Rod. What else is in that series?
Planet of Fire.
Planet of Fire.
Which is shite.
I'm looking forward to doing that. Maybe we should do Planet of Fire Special Edition.
Oh my God.
Hey, Brendan?
Oh dear.
There's a blast from the past there. Vomit-inducing content. Did you notice that Chris Chibnall may have been watching this story?
Yes.
Yes. The Earth is hungry.
Yeah.
Just delete a couple of words there and you've got a very mediocre Series 5 script. Yes, so a bit of backstory to this. Eric Saywood commissioned Christopher H. Bidney to write this story on the proviso that it featured a monster, which of course he hadn't really done before.
No.
And it's interesting when you see Bidney talking about Doctor Who because, you know, we've said it before, but he's a nerd.
Yeah.
And he seems obsessed with the TARDIS. Castrovalva, Logopolis, and this
is
all sort of deal with dimensions
Yeah,
and the TARDIS and the space used within it, which is really neat. I think sort of watching this, there are a couple of elements, like the TARDIS being one of them, that sort of doesn't feel like it's sort of planted as an idea, but it doesn't reach the full.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's not rounded off, and we've got a beginning and an end, but there's no sort of middle to that narrative.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Obviously, the TARDIS gets blown up at some point. JNT circulated that the TARDIS would be removed from the series entirely in the press.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because he was very, very good at that sort of stuff. Same with Visitation and the Sonic Screwdriver.
That was the thing I was going to bring up today. It was like, I wonder if people actually genuinely thought, oh shit, the TARDIS, is that it? Is the TARDIS gone? Have we got a John Pertwee type situation going on here?
But I wondered about this. Like, obviously, canon is fluid, and what is established in the series is very malleable. But, it's only been, I say only, but it's like 12, 14 years since Curse of Peladon, where we established that the TARDIS is indestructible.
Less than that, surely. It's like less than 10 years, isn't it, since...
It's 12. It's got to be 10. No, it's got to be 12. Because this is 84 and Curse is 72?
Oh, yes,
71,
it is.
72.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I can't do maths.
God, I'm worse at maths than you, and I've managed to...
Yeah, no, my maths is appalling. Now. Yeah, well done.
Maybe Thatcher's actually improved your mathematical skill. I'll become a bit of an adric.
It didn't work for me.
But, obviously the TARDIS is indestructible. Oh, no, wait, it isn't. So what causes... Well, obviously it's the meteorite storm that the TARDIS explodes in, but what causes it to get fragmented underground?
I don't know, gravitational dragging of the Gravis.
I mean, it's got to be something like that, but it's like, it's not expanded on in the text, so you're sort of like, okay, it looks cool. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't quite...
It's always confused me. Every time I come back to it, I always think,
why has it actually done that?
Yeah.
Ah, well.
Because it needed to happen for the end of the story. And Chris Bidmead likes that sort of stuff.
And that is what they teach you in the script writing class 101, is like, if it needs to happen, just make it happen. Don't let anybody ask you any questions about it. Peter Davison has stated this is a favourite story of his.
Really? We'll get onto that later.
I think I'm going to agree with what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And that it got a hold of how I saw the part of the Doctor.
Yeah.
And Mark Strickson thought the story was clever and frightening. And finally gave him a chance to do some real acting.
Yeah.
And thank God Mark Strickson is a really good actor.
Yeah.
Because for God's sake, if this was an Adric story...
Oh my God, well, it just wouldn't happen.
Tractators!
That's too good. That was too good for Matthew Waterhouse.
How would he have done it?
I don't know.
Tractators?
Yeah.
Something like that. So let's talk about this. So what were your feelings going into this? It's a sort of in my head, it's a very vanilla, middle of the road sort of a Doctor Who. If you were to show somebody what is the most average Doctor Who story you can think of, I'd be like something like Frontios or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those which is like, it's fine. There's... I wouldn't go out of my way to put it on necessarily, but I was, when it came up as should we review it, I was quite keen to do it because I thought, well, it's not really one that people talk about
all that much.
Yeah. And obviously that season is, this story sort of gets lost between Warriors of the Deep having the bloody Merca in it, Twin Dilemma being absolutely appalling.
Resurrection is straight after this.
Resurrection being a total bloodbath. Heroes of Androzani being amazing.
Yeah.
And then Planet Fire. And The Awakening. I was quite keen to do this. And when I was a kid, when we had the video, because it was Awakening and Frontios, couldn't get on with either of them. Neither of them really appealed.
Obviously, at that time, you wouldn't be so callous as to put The Awakening out as a single video release.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really fare well for the other story you pair it with when it's like this one and this one together.
Yeah.
It's like, they're both as bad as each other.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's disappointing really, because I think that the thing that this story really has going for it, that to a degree The Awakening has as well, is the production design is so good.
Yeah.
I think that the sets are brilliant.
Right.
I think the lighting is fantastic.
See, now I can't agree with the lighting.
Really?
Because they talk about how dark it is, and you can see.
Oh, I mean, but they've got their phosphorescence.
That's cool. I like the
things,
phosphorescence thing,
yeah.
but you just think, turn the lights down a bit,
Yeah.
because they're going on about how dark it is. It's like, you can see clear as anything.
And then you don't have to see the Tractators as much.
And
Which would probably be better.
It would hide a multitude of sins. It's those fucking hands.
I know. We'll get to the fucking hands. Yeah, I thought, generally pretty good looking. My favourite set was that, which they only really use, I think it's in the first part, is the top of the colony ship.
Right.
Because I thought, you never really see elevation like that in Doctor Who.
No.
And you hear the sort of wind, and it's all white, and they're sort of like struggling over the gantry and stuff like that.
That's my issue with this again.
Really?
Because I think the white, it's like, where is that? Why?
Okay, fine.
It just feels like they're out in a void.
Yeah.
I think, come on, they have.
It's the exposure. The exposure rate of BBC cameras in the 1980s can't really capture the atmosphere of Frontios. So
I see, right?
Blow it out a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm defending a Fifth
My
Doctor story.
God,
what is going on
here?
And what do we think of Paddy Kingsland's score?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Paddy Kingsland's fantastic. I love his music.
A bit weird that the harpsichord only sort of appears in the last 25 minutes of the story.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a nice sound.
Yeah.
But it suddenly kind of comes out of nowhere and you're like, did you just get this plug in the last day that you were doing the score?
Quick. But I like the little pipes, the pan pipes. Yeah.
And there's a couple of sort of like bits of synth that kind of go meow.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. I love that sort of sound for Doctor Who.
Yeah. Was that his last score, I think?
Couldn't be bothered to look that up, but
No.
I imagine it probably was. Are we on a Federation planet as well, Matthew?
I know, that was because I watched it with Annie and I was like, we got Blake 7 helmets on.
They literally have Federation Guard helmets on.
Yeah.
I wonder if, alongside the other things that we want to maybe discuss on the review of Death, Rod Dwarf.
Yeah, Rod Dwarf.
00 Rod. We need to think of a better name for that.
Yeah.
James
Rod.
And Blake's Rod.
Blake's Rod.
That's what you can look forward to in the future. We're going to do. We'll do Blake 7.
Yeah.
I think we have to do Blake 7, really.
It is so close to Doctor Who.
It's like, well, they're recording
Shot
it next door, literally, So, for me, always this era, the barrier for entry is Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor,
right?
Or sort of more broadly, the Fifth Doctor himself.
Yeah.
Being that I guess he is so close visually to the age of the people that he's with, he doesn't really carry much authority when he's speaking. He looks like he can kind of lose an argument with himself, or it looks like he apologises after sex, sort of thing. But the opening scene of this, I was like, where's he been?
Yeah.
All the hat stand stuff.
That's all great.
And then when he's in the infirmary with Range.
He's so good.
And he's doing all this stuff, and it's like, this is him.
He really takes command of the whole situation.
And then when he's down with the Gravis.
Yeah.
And he's sort of, he's doing a bit of the, hey, look, I'm on your side. It's not quite sort of Colin Baker going, well, I'm evil as well then. He's being a bit more sort of
and like all the fun stuff with Tegan's a robot and he's like, the accent's wrong and all this sort of stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's Janet Fielding's legit reaction, I'm sure, I'd say, him saying that. And then the bit, in the end with all the farewells and stuff and the hat stand, and it's just, where's this Fifth Doctor in the rest of his era? Are there any other stories where I can see this Fifth Doctor? Because he's...
Caves of Androzani?
Maybe a bit of Planet of Fire when he's on location in Lanzarote.
Is he? I don't know.
I can only think of the bit where he deposits the alien coins.
Oh, the coins. True.
And when he's baked off his face in Ark of Infinity and he's wandering around, looking for a patisserie to have some pasties in.
This is the thing. I had the benefit of watching it with a Fifth Doctor mega fan. And
a Fifth Doctor stan.
Yeah, and she was able to sort of say, she said she thinks Bidmead is the best writer for Davison.
I would agree,
she said he gets his Doctor. In fact, he gets all the characters in this incredibly well because he's Turlo, is kind of a nothing character, really,
No.
up until this point where he gets so much to do.
Yeah.
And fair play to Mark Strickson, because he does a superb job with this stuff. But she said, it's interesting to see the Fifth Doctor's character arc, where, he starts off and he's all unsure, and, he's getting used to having this body where he doesn't carry the same authority, like you were saying, because he looks so young. There's that bit in part 2 where he says, oh, well, you might as well just shoot me then. And they say, all right, we'll shoot him. And he's like, oh, shit. And she said, if that had been Tom Baker, and he just said it.
Well, you might as well shoot me then.
Yeah, and give him a grin. He'd have been like, okay, this guy's a fucking weirdo. And then you sort of gradually, you see him finally get used to his new persona, and okay, this is who I am, this is my Doctor. And then he ends up having to lose that because he saves Perry's life.
It's interesting though,
he's babysitting kids all the time. That's the problem.
But and that's why it's infuriating to watch his early seasons, because nobody gets on in the TARDIS, and Tegan, of all people, to be travelling with Turlough, obviously has her suspicions about him from the start, and they turn out to be true, even though Turlough does, sort of turn babyface in the end. But it's like this TARDIS team are the two characters I would least like to see the Fifth Doctor with.
Right, yeah.
On paper.
Yeah.
Turlough, up until this point, the only thing his character has had going for him is that he's a bit duplicitous. You're not too sure whether or not he's a goodie or a baddie.
And once that's gone, it's like, well, what do we do with this guy?
But then he has moments where he does the pick a hand.
Yeah.
And he turns them over and there's coins in both. And you think, where's this guy come from?
Yeah.
But it's like, it doesn't feel unnatural for the Doctor's influence on him to have turned him into that kind of a person.
Yeah.
But then
it's nice because he's initially, he's still scared, rightly so, but like you said, he's picked up the Doctor's influence, and then, oh, actually, well, I may be doing this reluctantly, but at least I can sort of show,
maybe
my
he
heart's
shouldn't
in the
have
right
done it,
place.
because he ends up basically foaming at the mouth for the rest of the story out of fear.
I bet Mark Strickson was like, well, how can I get a good performance out of this? I know, I'll eat some sherbet and start foaming. Got some dib dabs in the dressing room. Gone, put some of those.
Fucking dib dabs.
Yeah.
Get in there. But then, then you have Tegan in all of this as well.
Yeah.
And Janet Fielding is one story out from having to sort of let go of the character. And she's probably thinking, thank God I haven't got to wear this PVC skirt for much longer. Because, God bless her heart, she's trying to get some sort of verticality in what she does in her performance.
Thank God she's not with Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, because those two together, who knows what the people would have thought, especially in Amsterdam.
Oh my God. And also the leather between the two of them.
Yeah.
They would have been setting each other off like bloody crazy. But, she doesn't have a lot to do. Obviously, through a lot of early Peter Davison, it's like a 3 TARDIS crew, and then it goes down to 2 again. But invariably, somebody is left doing, the busy work.
Yeah.
And in this story, it's definitely Tegan. And it's impossible to sort of get away from the fact that somebody ends up shortchanged in these situations. So she sort of just bounces from one group of characters to another group of characters.
Yeah, and there's one of the issues with the story is things happen either because they have to happen, and so therefore the way in which they happen doesn't seem particularly realistic. So in Tegan's case, when I know we're getting slightly ahead of ourselves, but when Plantagenet is in the bed and she's with the other guy, the soldiery bloke, Brazen, and she says,
brazen by name, brazen by nature.
Yeah, very much so. And she says something like, "Oh yeah." Especially with all those deaths undisclosed that he's got to deal with.
What do you mean?
Yeah, and you're like, in what reality would anyone say that?
I know.
It's the most clunky line.
Yeah.
And you can imagine that Janet was like, how am I going to say this?
Because to be fair,
she does it well.
It is one of those things where, but you're not sort of like, ugh, at her.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm seeing through this as being an issue with the story.
Exactly, yeah.
Not with your character.
No.
But she's very good at,
Yeah.
There are a couple of other instances of sort of plot elements just suddenly sort of disappearing.
Yeah.
So there's a few we can get to, but two that may be quite minor, but for me really stuck out. So we meet the deputy for all of about a minute and a half, who puts Range on trial.
Yes.
For hoarding all this medical information.
Yes.
And then as soon as Brazen sort of barks a couple of things, I think Tegan's there as well, and they go, well, we've got to go and sort this out.
Yeah.
And then they run out of the room, and it's like, oh, I guess the trial's over then.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, fine, right, well, we'll forget about that. And then the Doctor, for most of the first 2.5 parts of the story, is under heavy suspicion from Plantagenet and Brazen.
It's quite annoying, the amount of like, well, it's clearly you who are the enemy, Doctor. But like, for fuck's sake.
He's still wandering around and doing all this shit.
Yeah.
So you're like, but where is the line drawn here? Like you either have him under heavy suspicion and you lock him up for 2.5 parts, like a Pertwee story, and he can't do anything.
Yeah.
So, but you need a bit of agency. You need the Doctor to be doing stuff. But it's like, well, don't have him under such heavy, scrutiny by these people if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
The other one, which I think is quite clear. So obviously the TARDIS gets blown up.
Yeah.
And in the early goings, before the TARDIS even lands on Frontios, the Doctor's saying, we can't land there because we're going to have some kind of influence over the development of this colony.
Yeah.
And they're in the very early stages of getting shit together. This is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
He says that in part 1. And then in part 4, says, don't tell anybody we were here.
Yeah.
And then gets in the TARDIS and says, we shouldn't have really done that. But anyway, on to next week where the Daleks will turn up. And then the same with the TARDIS.
Yeah.
The TARDIS gets blown up. It's a great cliffhanger to part 1. Mm-hmm. And then in part 4, we encounter the destroyed TARDIS underground.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, the TARDIS is gone.
Yeah.
And it's, it's quite a cool idea to think they're stranded at the end of the universe.
Yeah.
Beyond the reach of even the Time Lords. And the TARDIS is gone. But it's never brought up after part 1's cliffhanger.
I think it needed to be... because the visual of the TARDIS walls with all the rocks around it and stuff is so good.
Amazing.
I think that needed to have been brought in as soon as they went into the tunnels.
Yeah.
That, the TARDIS...
There's a column here.
There's
a door there.
And like, oh shit, Frontios is the TARDIS or something, that could have been the story,
Yeah.
And if we remove the TARDIS, that's it. The colony won't survive. What do we do? There's
the dimensions of the TARDIS are holding the planet together because they're burrowing around, and it's like the gravitational pull of the TARDIS is keeping it all
if
together.
If we pull the TARDIS out, that's it. They're doomed.
Yeah. Fuck.
Oh.
That's so much better. Let's review that story.
So, and then the other one of things that just seem to happen because why the fuck not is when Brazen falls into the machine so shittily. Because Turlo,
it's Turlo's fault.
He's been fine for like the last 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden he comes over like a zombie again.
I want to sit in that thing.
And then Brazen like pushes him out of the way, but pushes his ass into it.
Oh, stop! This is really comfortable, but stop. And then, but when you first see the mining machine, you think, shit, that's grim.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice, I think from having read the TARDIS wiki page, which is obviously the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom. They were going to be a bit more human remains, body parts, with it.
Yeah.
Which I love. The TARDIS wiki pages goes, which was eventually picked up in the story "Girl in the Fireplace." Like there's a dusty file hanging around the production office where someone went, "That's a good idea from 1984. Why don't we do that again, Stephen?" But it's like it's a great visual. That cliffhanger. Yeah. That's the best cliffhanger of the whole story. Like the TARDIS being destroyed is sort of like. Yeah, but it isn't, is it? Because we've still got 3 episodes left to go in this series or whatever.
It's a
4
cheat
episodes.
of a cliffhanger.
Yeah. So, it's a cool visual when you first see it, but then you figure out what the Tractators' plan is. Yeah. And firstly, you think it's been done.
Yeah.
And secondly, you think there's not enough sort of tangible physicality to what the Tractators do to make me think, this is a real plan of, that can be actioned.
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about the Tractators then.
I mean, like we said, when they're still, they look great. They're a cool design, but the arms flapping about is just ridiculous. The shuffling around is also appalling. This is where the directing comes in, because if I was a director, I'd be like, we're not seeing their feet.
That's a good point. Yeah,
They should have been like, right,
let's not see the studio floor.
Yeah.
But they've painted it so nicely with those swirls where Tegan gets sort of captured.
oh yeah, well, do one wide shot, but just say, none of you bastards
but
move.
put loads of dry ice around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah.
But it's just, as soon as you see him shuffling, you're like, that is a man in a suit.
Every day I'm shuffling.
Yeah, and I don't know. And then the mouth, it doesn't convince me. When it's hello doctor, oh TARDIS, I want your TARDIS. Like fucking hell. It's like, come on, please. You can see Peter Davison there thinking, thank fuck I'm going at the end of this.
How many more weeks have I got?
Yeah.
Shit.
Say, at least I got someone to act against next week. Who is it? Daleks.
Oh, God.
Bloody hell.
Is Terry booked? Oh, fine. All right,
Yeah.
well, we can do a couple of nice scenes with him. And they don't have the best start, the Tractators.
No.
Because on 3 separate occasions in part 3, the Doctor manages to get away from them.
Yeah.
And it's only when they use their Tractator beam
Yeah.
that they're actually able to sort of like snare him. But it's like that bowling ball bit.
Yeah.
And then when Tegan throws the phosphorus lamp.
Yeah.
And they've not modulated their voices.
Yeah, and they're just...
And you just hear people in the costumes going, ow! Oh, ow! Apparently, so the ventilation was so bad, they had to lift their tops up and they had to blast air into their outfits, which is just fucking dreadful. Gravis? The Gravis? What's that about?
Who knows?
Is it?
He is like his own separate entity.
Is Tractator his surname?
Gravis Tractators.
That's a great bit of fake ID if somebody wants that. Nobody would question that. They go, oh, where are you from? Romania. That'll do.
Fine. Oh dear. Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, the whole idea that that without him, they are just harmless animals that burrow around. Okay, then why? Why is he a thing?
But the Fifth Doctor makes a big point in part 3 of going, they're obviously hyper intelligent. It's like, fuck, we don't see any of that. Apart from the fact they've built this machine. Like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, their hands like that
Yeah,
can
how
put
did
together
they do this?
mining machine.
Oh, maybe they just telekinetically put
But
it together.
then why do they look like woodlice? Why can't they be like gestalt entities or like consciousnesses floating around and shit? Like, why do they have to look like woodlice?
Because woodlice burrow around in tunnels under the ground.
Because
they could have been moles. They could have been mole men.
Woodlice infested Christopher Bidmean's house.
Oh, is that what it was?
And he went, I think that they'd make it good.
We actually have a bit of a woodlice infestation at the
Do
moment.
you?
Yeah, they keep coming around all over the place. I think the Tractators are after us.
Shall we add Knock Knock to the list of
Oh
episodes
my
to
God.
look at? It's only the second ever woodlice influenced episode of Doctor Who that's been made before.
There's also that fantastic bit when, I mean, the bit with the boulder and he does the how's
When he plays
that.
bowling, yeah.
I mean, that looks pathetic. Because
Yeah.
it just rolls along and it taps him and he goes... "Ah."
Because you're thinking like, okay, like this is the 3rd time these props have been seen on screen. Please
Yeah.
don't damage them.
Yeah.
You know.
And then they do it with the guy, when the guys come in and then they start bashing one with the sticks.
But you can hear them.
You can hear him clunking. But it's so gentle. It's like,
Yeah.
don't hit him too hard because that will fall to pieces.
And you can see the sort of, there's seams in between the
Yeah.
ribs of the back of
Yeah.
their thing. Bless them.
They look good now. If they brought them back now
They'd
and
look
did some
amazing.
CGI, I mean, hell, that thing that giant slug is Tractator-esque.
It's
that we're
very
seeing.
that looks like the kind of, that's like Tractators and the monsters from that era of 80s Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That Ricky Gervais took the piss out of in
Yeah,
Extras.
that's it.
That one that's popping up in Ncuti's era.
Yeah.
Is perfect sort of levels.
You could just slip that in between the Tractators and the gastropods.
Yeah, but then so obviously
What other bloody garden animals were they looking at that season? Oh, we got woodlice, we've got
they haven't done
slugs.
grasshoppers yet.
Haven't done grasshoppers.
What else haven't they done? Well, they've done giant spiders.
done
They've done
ants and bloody ants and butterflies and.
Let's not
I mean,
give-
wood lice in that as well. The venom grubs.
The venom grubs.
They're wood lice. Doctor Who loves their wood lice.
All right, well, I won't add the web planet to our list because life's too short.
I cannot watch that again this year. I think I would slip into a coma and die.
The Hungry Earth is obviously a thing we come back to in the story.
There's some great lines like "The Earth is hungry."
Yeah, or there's one
about the appetite. I noted that down.
I wrote it down as well. I can't remember where
I've got it here. Frontios buries its own dead. That's a really
lush.
good one.
That's the one I wrote down.
What's the one about the appetite? They are the appetite beneath the ground. What a great line!
Nicely done, Chris.
Yeah, there's some good lines in this one.
Or Eric Saywood. I'm not sure who was
Whoever,
responsible for those. Not that Eric Saywood was a particularly great script editor anyway, but the effect of them being dragged into the earth.
Yeah.
Like, it looks great up to a point.
Yeah, it's when they have to do
they've obviously gone, okay, well, we can't actually bury them in the studio because we haven't got the time or the money.
Or it's not deep enough, or...
Yeah, so we'll just stick this noise effect over the top so it looks like soil, and then we'll roll back and mix, and then they'll be disappear. But then to think it's only, another 2 years or a year and a half.
Oh, and they got Colin Baker being, I was going to say, sucked under the ground.
Sucked under the ground. And it looks great.
Yeah.
So,
But on location, this is the thing.
But that's it,
it's on
in the
location.
confines of the studio.
What annoyed me with this is that, obviously it's a studio-bound story, and you think, the outside of the colony would have been perfect for a Doctor Who quarry.
True.
This is like one of the one times where do it in a quarry.
It just struck me there's no location sequences in the story.
It would have, it's literally set in a quarry. If I can shoot it at a quarry,
literally,
and it makes it feel very small. Like
that's good. It gives it a base under siege feel.
It does, but then you have some like unrealistic stuff where like that guy when he says, "Oh, well, that's it. I've had enough. I'm off. I'm going to become a retrograde and go off." And he like walks 5 paces. And then there's like men set upon him.
That was like West Side Story. It's like they all should have been clicking it in when they walked up to him. Like,
I mean, their costumes are insane. You've like got the guy with the moustache with like the stripped
the Scottish
sleeves.
bloke. Yeah.
And you're like, come on, this is like the gay scene of the 80s.
You've wandered out of heaven, bro.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's like, what?
Get in there. Ian Levine's got a good set on. Let's get going.
Oh, dear. So I think, that lets it down a little bit.
A wee bit, yeah.
Go back to Peter Davison. Those specs.
The brainy specs.
He does good with those brainy specs on.
He does. And I didn't realise those plimsolls are actually plimsolls.
Yeah.
They're actually kind of like boots
Yeah,
rather
they
than
are,
trainers.
aren't they? Yeah.
There's a few things with cliffhangers in this story.
Yeah.
So part 1 apparently overran.
Right.
And so a lot of stuff was cut back. So that bloke who gets set upon by the West Side Story blokes.
Yeah.
Cockerel, I think it's Cockerel.
Right.
Is his name Cockerel?
Coco Van.
Coco Van. Because he turns up at some point and he's like, well, I'm going to be the new Plantagenet.
Yeah.
And so apparently his story is actually set up in part 1.
Oh, really?
But it was cut. Because I was thinking in this, like, he sort of pops up out of nowhere and becomes a sort of protagonist beyond the main sort of cast that are involved in the action. And then he comes in and saves Norna.
Yeah.
And
then says, tie her up, shut her up.
Yeah, I know, it is like, well, you were good, you were a baddie.
Yeah.
But he has a whole thing apparently set up in part 1 that got cut.
Right.
And there's a few instances where I think maybe it's Chris Bidmead, having been script editor, is thinking, if this underruns or overruns, I'll give you an option for 1 or 2 cliffhangers towards the end.
Yeah.
Because there's the the TARDIS has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The TARDIS has been destroyed. And then there's him getting held at gunpoint, which happens quite soon afterwards.
Yeah.
But it also has a bit of a close-up.
Yeah.
And then there's a close-up of Turlo, I think, in part 2, towards the end of part 2, that looks like it should have a...
Yeah.
At the end of it into the theme tune.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. So I sort of wonder if it might have been Chris Bidmead thinking, I know what this job's like. If we underrun in the studio, you've got a couple of options here for cliffhangers.
Yeah. I think the problem with that whole retrograde, or the Rets or whatever they call them.
Rets,
that whole subplot, it doesn't feel like it's very thought out, or it's just sort of happening rather than the stakes don't really feel like they're there. You know? That guy, I mean, he's not the best actor in the world who plays Cockerel or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And, for him to suddenly say, oh, well, I'll be the next Plantagenet because the ground didn't swallow him up and all this sort of stuff. You're like,
but
really, him?
I quite like that because
I like the idea.
It's a bit like within the colony.
Yeah.
They've been there so long and they've been so under the cosh of what's going to happen underneath them.
Yeah.
That they're like, anybody that can survive that, fucking fair play.
Yeah.
Because Plantagenet has this whole thing of they need to see that I'm alive in order to believe that we can get out of this. So they've been in this dire situation long enough that somebody surviving being dragged into the earth is enough for them to go,
oh, he's the man.
You are now our leader.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help that obviously it was cut in part 1.
Yeah.
At the time. Maybe that would have been a whole other story thread that actually we would have been thinking, that's really nicely tied up. This guy that appears in part 1 eventually becomes the hero towards the end of the story.
And then there's like, oh, the looting's already started. And they're like, oh, has it?
Yeah, you don't get an impression of that.
Yeah, the stakes just don't feel there for those bits. And I imagine it's just Ron Jones is like, I am up against it, I've got these fucking monsters coming in the next couple of parts that look absolutely appalling to move around, and I've got to try and do something with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't hold that against them. Talking about shit stuff as well.
Yeah, go on.
The battery that they collect in part 1. God, that looks shit. It's on a little box with sequins on it, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, the box itself isn't great.
Yeah.
But it does make you, it feels like Fallout.
There is an element of that.
And okay, we have to go to A to get back to B to then plug in the thing, and then the thing will work, and then we open this next part of the adventure and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't mind that so much.
Yeah.
More to me in that acid battery story is that we never go back on the roof of the spaceship.
You love that roof.
I love it. I just think but I can only think, in terms of verticality, Silver Nemesis is about as high in the air as we ever get after that point.
After that point, I was going to say. Otherwise, it's going to be...
The Valiant.
The Valiant. What's the Valiant?
For Series 3.
Yeah.
The Moon.
I mean, I have to say, any story set in space is technically...
It's all relative to where we are, ultimately.
True, yeah.
But, fair play to... It is Ron Jones. I was going to say Ron Jeremy. Isn't he like a porn
He's a porn
guy? Fair play to Ron Jones, because this...
I just got visions of Ron Jeremy directing Doctor Who and thinking, fucking hell, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I'll go to the States and do some porn.
Has your sonic screwdriver got a third setting that we can turn it on? I think...
I thought you were Irish then.
To be sure. I think that there's a certain aspect to this production, 2 aspects to this production we should probably also mention.
Yeah.
Even at this late stage in the review. I was trying to figure out Brazen, who's the barky,
he's
throw
in something
dude.
else, isn't he?
I was trying to work out what he was from, and as of recording this, it's come out. But as of this coming out, it's come out. But as of recording this, it hasn't come out yet. I did a documentary about the Carry On films.
Yeah.
And I was like, I fucking recognise that guy.
Right.
He's in like a dozen Carry On movies,
Really?
playing various sort of lechy bit parts.
Right.
But the most famous bit of all the Carry Ons that he's involved in, it might even be a bit that you know. Barbara Windsor comes up to an orderly in the car park of a hospital.
Yeah.
And he's eating his lunch.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, what a lovely looking pear."
Yeah,
and he goes, "You took the words right out of my mouth."
That's him, is it?
That is him.
Wow.
That is Peter Gilmore, who has a name like a sort of lechy Carry On character.
Does, doesn't he,
There's
really?
something about that.
Yeah.
And was also married to Una Stubbs.
Really?
For a time as well.
Cool.
But had quite a long career. But I was like, oh, fuck it, I know you
Yeah.
from somewhere.
Wow, that's a real difference in character type there.
Big change.
He's good in this.
He is. Do you know what? There are a couple of moments where I sort of... It's him and William Lucas who plays Range.
Yeah.
Who we'll come to in a minute, actually. There's a bit of interesting casting there. But he has a bit of a look on his face sometimes where you think, are you fully into this? Or are you thinking, fucking hell, this script is shit. Yeah. I do serious dramas at the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I'm here with these fucking
woodlice men.
Woodlice blokes going... Blah, 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 blah. But Jeff Rule Rule, who plays Plantagenet.
Ah, yes, hello.
Later, it's very, very convincing. Later turns up in the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah.
In the episode Mona Lisa's Revenge.
Yes, he is. Yes, I knew he was in one.
As the gallery manager.
One of the few that I've seen.
And he's also in another Doctor Who spin-off. He plays Mervyn Pinfield in An Adventure in Space and Time.
Yeah, he's also a serial killer in Hollyoaks as well.
Talking of murder, although William Lucas plays Range, who's the medical officer in this episode, Peter Arne was initially cast.
Oh my God.
Got the part, got a wardrobe test, and then was killed in his flat hours after.
Jesus Christ.
After he did it.
Fucking hell.
And they never found the killer.
Really?
Never found the motive. But apparently, according to Wikipedia, he was in a relationship with a student at university who ended up floating dead down the Thames.
What the fuck?
I remember vaguely when I watched the Frontios DVD extras, I remember something popping up and being like, shit,
Bloody hell.
What is going on here? I think it's mentioned in the documentary for Frontios.
So he's murdered, his partner is...
Maybe not at the time, but somebody he was in a relationship with prior, according to Wikipedia.
Right.
Let's put that in big block capital letters.
And the production designer took their own life.
Yeah, took their own life.
Bloody hell.
The Tractators don't look that bad. And then Leslie Dunlop, who played Norna,
turns up in Happiness Patrol.
As Susan Q.
Susie Q, yeah.
Susan Q?
Whatever. Yeah.
Something Q.
Yeah, and now she's running the cafe in Emmerdale Farm.
Really?
She's been Emmerdale Farm for donkey's years.
Get in there. Yeah. Get that paycheck. Well done.
Emmerdale Farm. It's not been called Emmerdale Farm since the 90s, but...
Since Fraser Hines crashed a light aeroplane into the farm. I don't know really if I have that much more to talk about with Frontios. I mean... So we have the thing about they're all overrunning a little bit, and obviously there's a few dropped threads. The main one for me really is, so we've got this thing set up. Chris Bidmead loves the TARDIS. And we set up this thing where the TARDIS might be destroyed. And then it's never really picked up on until the end.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the whole thread of we shouldn't be interfering.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the TARDIS and he's like, keep stum.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody about this.
Yeah.
And the Time Lords are mentioned quite a lot.
Yeah, it's really weird that. Yeah. That always sticks out to me. Like, I don't know whether I like it or I don't. It's like, why are you making such a big deal about this?
It does seem like, if he's willing to be this sort of pally-pally with the Gravis / Tractator leader or whatever, which is really how they should have been. If this is the classic episode of Doctor Who, it should be Tractator leader, not the Gravis. If he's being this pally-pally, he's giving a lot of information away. Yeah. That you think the Doctor, if they're trying to keep quiet about being at the end of the universe and not interfering with this colony at such an early stage in their development, shouldn't really be sort of saying all this stuff. So it's indicative of the fact that it's just a dropped plot thread. Yeah. That it's brought up at that level at all. Yeah.
He also says about, you mentioned earlier how he talks about, these creatures must be greatly intelligent and all this sort of stuff. Yet the Gravis immediately falls for the idea that Tegan might be a robot.
Yeah.
She looks very realistic.
But they're all going... They're all able to detect if people are flesh and blood to use in the machine. Yeah. So what the fuck's going on there? Do Aussies not have a regular heartbeat? No, what's the crack?
They've just not encountered an Australian before. So.
No, they are a different breed. Yeah. Follow Brown Cardigan on Instagram and you'll see that Australians are made of fucking different gravy. They're nutcases. In all then, what are we going to give Frontios?
I'd give it a 7.
I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's good. It's a good story. I think as a story, it's good. It's got a few issues here and there, but otherwise, it's fine.
It is perfectly acceptable.
I did have a moment when the Gravis is talking to Plantagenet in the thing, and he's having a proper conversation. I was sat there thinking, that guy must have been thinking, what the fuck am I doing here?
I thought that for a number of the cast members.
There's so many moments where you think, I'm talking to a giant woodlouse that can barely stand up. When the Gravis falls over, and there's a clump on the floor, that is on the console. Oh my God.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's my favourite part of the whole thing. Yeah. And there's a bit where Turlo, when he's talking about the pulley system. Oh yeah. And he says to Norna, there must be a thing under here. We have to lift these plates up.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to her and she goes, and wanders off. And I was just like, that's perfect. But, you know, it's good. I'm glad that I've come out of this Fifth Doctor story with a better appreciation for that particular era because...
And for Peter.
I think Peter's great in it, actually.
Yeah.
But you can tell, maybe it's like a bit of a Peter Capaldi thing where you can sort of look at them and go, you're not feeling this.
Yeah.
You know, there's something... or you know, Tom Baker's really bad for it.
Yeah.
Where you can think, I can tell that this script is not enthusing you.
Yeah.
But you think, with Peter Davison, it's just like, you've got you haven't got so few great stories, but the great stories you do have are like exceptional Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Caves of Androzani, Earthshock, which is like joint favourite Doctor Who episode of mine of all time. That's kind of it, really.
Resurrections is good.
Resurrection's fine. Kinder's really good.
Yeah.
Resurrection would be interesting to do because it's cool, but I think it's cool if you're 12 years old. Yeah. And then as you get older, it just gets unrelentingly grim. And you just think, it's a bit too much.
Oh, I still like it. I watched it recently with the kids and they enjoyed it.
Yeah, but again, they're like...
Yeah, and I just, it's good fun, isn't it?
You know, if your whole point is to make Tegan think this is too much, I want to go home, it's great. But the fact that every main character dies in that story, and then you've got 2 more stories to go, and then Caves of Androzani is fucking depressing as well. You know, shit. Like,
you need wobbly Tractators and
you do need a
and bloody pantomime horse Merca at the start of the season, because otherwise, holy shit.
That season's got it all, hasn't it?
It really does.
It's got the shit Doctor Who that you kind of love to watch.
Yeah.
And then it's got the kind of, actually this is quite strong stuff. And then it's got the top of the line, toppermost of the poppermost Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Season 21.
So that's an interesting one, because I always look at season 21 and sort of go, ugh.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's some really good stories in there.
I think if you point out the story in the middle of it where you don't really think that much of it.
Yeah.
And then you actually go back and watch it and think that's actually quite good. It makes the whole of the season
because otherwise it feels too weighted at the end.
Yeah.
It's all the good stuff.
Exactly.
You have Twin Dilemma.
Yeah, God, then you got Twin Dilemma and then everything falls apart a little bit. But, you know, Papa bless. Anyway, that is Frontios. We've come out of this with a new appreciation for the Fifth Doctor's era. Yeah. Quite possibly.
Yeah. I was surprised. I thought I was going to come in today and you were going to be like, I'm moaning about it, but no.
No, I actually was thinking, do you know what? I'm looking forward to telling everybody that I'm not a reformed man.
No.
But I thought this was pretty
this
good.
served Peter Davison well.
It did.
Yeah.
Next episode, Matthew.
Yeah, what are we doing next time?
This is exciting.
Is it?
Because when this episode comes out, which is the 16th of March.
Oh, Mum's birthday. Happy 70th birthday, Mum.
I'll be out of here.
Right.
But it'll also nearly be your birthday. So we're going to talk about Pyramids of Mars.
We're doing that next? Is it really?
That next.
Is that going to be the next one? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what we're also going to talk about, we might double bank that as a recording.
Right.
So the episode after that will be, I think we're going to go back to an old Review of Death concept that we did before.
Right.
It's not an episode review per se.
Right.
We're going to talk about a couple of different episodes.
Right.
We want you to tell us your most overrated episodes of Doctor Who of all time. Because I think it's about time we maybe discuss that a bit more. We've got
a lot more
stories to sort of draw on.
Yeah.
There's some Jodie Whittaker stories that I think people really hold up in very high esteem that other people are like, you know, there are lots of detractors of Rosa for very good reasons. I'm not one of them, but I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about all of those.
Yeah.
And then we're looking forward to hearing what you say about Pyramids of Mars as well.
Ooh.
So let us know down below and we'll get around to it.
Sounds good.
So yeah, Pyramids of Mars next, and then after that we'll discuss your most sort of overrated episodes.
Sounds good. Yeah. See you all then. Bye-bye.